So I'm curious to see the Fight Week press conference next week and see if Berlanga is as excited with his youthful energy and trash talk next week. Because when you talk trash the week of the fight, in a couple of days you're gonna have to sort of back that trash talk up. You're gonna be on the hook for that trash talk. Your mouth signed the check and your ass has to cash it now.
Welcome, everyone, to Boxing Scene's Top Stories, only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. George DiMatteo is here. Don't forget to download the app, where apps are available for the full ProBox TV experience. I'm joined by our great world champions. We've got Chris Algieri, and we have Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, everybody's talking about Canelo Alvarez versus Edgar Berlanga, but that card on September 14th is going to be pretty interesting as well. You have Danny Garcia looking to maybe solidify his Hall of Fame credentials, going up against Erislandy Lara. Also, unbeaten Trevor McCumbee has been talking a little bit of trash to Caleb Plant, and Rolly Romero returning after his loss to Pitbull Cruz, and Stephen Fulton returning after his loss to Naoya Inoue. All right, Chris, which fight is the most intriguing of that fight card?
I'm actually intrigued by the main event, but we're not talking about main event here, so let's talk about this undercard. I got to go with Trevor McCumbee and Caleb Plant, and the reason for that is not so much because of the trash talk they've had back and forth. I want to see if McCumbee can elevate his level. I think I've said this on past air. I've trained with McCumbee about 10, 12 years ago in California when he was a highly touted, top-ranked prospect, and he looked really good in the gym. He has a big amateur background in the juniors. He's got good boxing skills. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, but he's been very inactive the last couple of years, had some issues. I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to step to the world-class level, because he's going to be forced to. Because Caleb Plant's a fantastic fighter, a legitimate world champion, a guy with a lot of skills. But also there's some intrigue with where Caleb Plant's at this point of his career. He had the big Canelo payday, made a ton of money, got stopped in that fight, came back in the fight with Benavidez. I thought he was improved in that fight, showed a better gas tank, was able to survive, but still took quite a beating in that fight. So I'm curious to see where his head's at. Also, I got to bring up the trash talking because it seems to spur Caleb Plant on. So it makes me look like, all right, Caleb Plant, normally known as a boxer, but if he hurts you, he looks to get you out of there. So I'm curious to see how that can affect this fight. Also, if that's going to allow him openings for McCumbee. I don't know. There's a lot of intrigue in that fight in my mind. But in terms of live dogs, I'm going to go with the Lara Garcia fight because Lara's 41 years old. And that's a big number when you're talking about world champions. And Danny Garcia, yes, he's been very inactive. Yes, he's way out of his weight class. But he's still Danny Garcia, and the guy can punch. He's younger. He's 36, not that young, but he's much younger than Lara is. He's going to be quote-unquote fresher because he hasn't been active. But that to me is a live dog, again, almost solely on the fact that we're dealing with Lara, who's 41, and Father Time tends to come overnight, so we really never know who's going to show up. But all in all, the card is an interesting card with a lot of named matchups. But again, it's coming down from the top. I'm curious for the main event.
Yeah. You know what? McCumbie's interesting because bringing the trash talk to the table, I hate to see these press conferences where everybody's friendly. I like to see some bad blood. I like to see a level of trash talk. I like to see, especially a guy like McCumbie, that he's stepping up to this world-class level for the first time in his career. If there's questions about McCumbie, how much does he belong here? He's an intense guy in the ring. He brings it with everything he's got. But does he have the versatility of a Caleb Plant? We know Caleb Plant is a world-class fighter because of the different levels of versatility that he has to his boxing style. Very different wrinkles he can make adjustments with because he has that versatility. So, can McCumbie match that? If McCumbie's all effort and all energy, it's a lot to deal with for himself because he's not going to be able to adjust and be as versatile as Caleb. But if McCumbie can show he's got that versatility along with that young energy, that hungry energy, the energy of a fighter that hasn't had the big money yet, like Caleb has, well then, it could be a problem. This is where we get our answer because we know Caleb has various levels. Like world-class fighters at that level, at the level of Caleb, for example, and others. It's like an onion. You peel it and there's other layers and other layers and other layers. Does McCumbie, is he a one-trick pony or does he have other layers in? That's what we want to find out. And Champ, yeah, I agree with you, man. The live dog in the card is Garcia. Maybe anybody Rolly Romero's fighting because with Rolly, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, there's times in his career where, he's beating Gervonta 6 rounds to 0 and then he gets knocked out. or he looks like he never fought before when he fought Pitbull Cruz. He looked like he never put on a pair of boxing gloves. So depending on which role he shows up, because with Rolly you just never know what you're gonna get. He's like a box of chocolates, to quote Forrest Gump. You may have a live dog in whatever opponent is fighting him. Who knows?
Yeah, he's going to take on Manuel Jaimes on that undercard. By the way, Erislandy Lara is favored at -240. Danny Garcia +190. If you're talking about McCumbee and Plant, these are all from sportsbetting.ag, by the way. Trevor McCumbee +850. Plant -1800. So that's a big live dog there for McCumbee if he could pull off that upset there. And as I mentioned,
big dog, not necessarily live.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe McCumbee going the distance.
Ooh, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. You know what? Yeah, definitely could. Gotta check out the better side for some information about that. We'll get to that in just a second. But what about the main event there, Chris, with Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga? Berlanga, is he a live dog in that fight against Canelo?
It's hard to say. I'm intrigued by the fight because of how he's approached this fight. Paul, you mentioned that you like when the guys are trash talking. Hey, Berlanga's brought a pretty good trash talk game, something that he hasn't shown this depth in that aspect of this game up until now. In the biggest showcase of his career, underneath the biggest lights, the brightest lights that he's been under, he's really stepped up at these press conferences and made this an entertaining made this entertaining to tune into. To watch these press conferences was oftentimes they're super boring, especially when you're fighting a legend like Canelo. I can remember Jaime Munguia and Canelo looking like they were having a hug fest when they did their press conference. We're not getting that. There's no love lost between these two, and it's coming mostly from the Berlanga side. So that makes it interesting. Plus the fact he's so big. You see these guys standing next to each other. You see the size difference. You see the youthful vitality of Berlanga. And listen, he's got nothing to lose, man. The guy can punch. He's big, he can punch, he's got nothing to lose. He's talking the right talk. If he can walk the right walk, he can make this fight interesting in the first couple of rounds. We'll see what happens after that, because obviously the biggest difference here is the experience and the world-class opposition that Canelo has been in with throughout his career. But all in all, I think it's an interesting fight, and I think it's actually going to be more entertaining than most people gave it credit for when it was first announced.
You're not talking trash yet until you do a fight week. Talking trash 2 months before is a different feeling. Talking trash fight week has a different set of nerves to it, because now it's time to actually live up to the trash talk you spoke. So I'm curious to see the fight week press conference next week and see if Berlanga is as excited with his youthful energy and trash talk next week, because when you talk trash the week of the fight, in a couple of days you're going to have to sort of back that trash talk up. You're gonna be on the hook for that trash talk. Your mouth signed the check and your ass has to cash it now. Pause. So it's a kind of situation that you really mentally have to either be there or not. So you're not really a trash talker until you're doing a fight week. Let's see if Berlanga is doing a fight week. Now the problem is, even if you did it 2 months before, you can't not do a fight week, because otherwise you're going to give your opponent a mental edge. He's going to say, this guy was talking trash 2 months ago, but now that he knows the fight's around the corner, he's playing Mr. Nice Guy. Now once you cross that, I think I said it in another show, once you cross that line, once you enter that room and open that door and enter that room, you can't undo that. Now you got to stay with that. You got to stay with that all the way into fight night, and then you got to be able to back that up, or at least fight in a way where even if it's not going your way, you're going to be a man about it and stay there, take your beating, and then throw back your punches the way you need to. We'll see which version of Berlanga shows up. Sort of does make you look forward to the fight more. I'm curious.
Yeah, according to sportsbetting.ag, Canelo is -1250 as a favorite, and Berlanga is +700 right now on sportsbetting.ag. And Edgar Berlanga spoke to us and has a great interview that you can catch on Big Fight Breakdown next week ahead of the fight between him and Canelo Alvarez. And then immediately after that fight between Canelo and Berlanga, you can catch Big Fight Breakdown live here on ProBox TV. Get your comments, super chats, all of that, putting it together after the fight on Big Fight Breakdown here on ProBox TV. What a week it is going to be. And of course, we'll have it all covered here on Top Stories. And we'd like to remind you to scan the QR code, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave those comments as well. And don't forget that on the app, you can watch the best live fight series in all of boxing. Wednesday night fight, September 11th, and a few days after that, the big one between Canelo and Berlanga. I'm George DeMatteis. Thank you for watching Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
He's the pride of Guadalajara, the Mexican maestro, the unified super middleweight champion of the world, Canelo Alvarez. His challenger, undefeated knockout artist and pride of Puerto Rico, Edgar Berlanga. BERLANGA. It's prime time.
CANELO versus BERLANGA, plus Lara versus Garcia. Saturday, September 14th, live on PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.